And just to start off with the first slide, for those of you that may have some misunderstandings what Revit is, I just very briefly, very synthetically, I will go through some basic benefits of using Revit, because Dynamo obviously is working on top of Revit, so it's like Revit is an essential part of it, of this workflow. So obviously, as for those of you that have little to do with Revit, it's a software for building information modeling, which helps architects, structural engineers, and in general professionals to design and maintain high quality buildings using the information rich models created with Autodesk Revit. All the professionals like architects, structural engineers, and MEP engineers can collaborate to deliver better projects more efficiently. And what is already widely understood and accepted as a BIM is so building information modeling. So the most important thing in BIM process is that a part of 2D drawings, a part of 3D information, you also have 3D solids, you also have information embedded in these solids, right? So if I draw a line, if I create a wall, in that wall I also have included some information about the quantity of materials, some fire resistance information, and so on. So it's not only a 2D documentation, it's not only a 3D, let's say, visual impact, but also information. This is like the most important thing about BIM. So from this abbreviation BAM, E. So I is the most important. So the information. Let's go further. So just to recapitulate, it's like not only lines, not 3D objects, but also intelligent information embedded in that elements. So in Revit, Revit works as a centric database, which it will include it's a one file basically, right? Which includes all print sheets, sections, views, schedules, 3D 3D views, renderings, and so on. So you have one coherent database which allows you to maintain your project in order and to make it coherent and basically prived of errors and mistakes, because it's in one. So all the documentation results from one model. So basically, it's very flexible. It's rather has like for the results that you get, especially with the latest releases, it has relatively low system requirements. It's rather easy to learn. And again, it's a database which basically allows you to if you change one thing in one place, then this change will be propagated in all depending views. So it's like really bidirectional database. So 3D linked with all the 2D documentation. If you change something in a plan, it will be propagated. It will be updated in all the views, depending views. Finally, Revit is a software which allows you to work on every project, on every phase of project delivery. So you can use it at the conceptual drawing. You can also, and you can basically go from conceptual to executive drawings. So it fulfills all these phases of project delivery. So from the conceptual to the very executive and very detailed drawings, it's all possible to be done in Revit. You don't need to help yourself with some additional applications like AutoCAD, for example. You can deliver all these drawings with Revit. Obviously, it all depends on how you are trained in that software, because this software is obviously has its own environment, and it's obvious that everyone that starts to work with Revit needs to learn it. But in general, it allows you to deliver your project in all these steps, from conceptual up to the executive. Finally, it has a lot of small little things which allow you to work much more efficiently. Like, for example, you have this option in Revit which allows you to include in one model multiple options, which basically they are stored. You don't have to save separate files. It's just stored in one Revit model, different design options. Finally, it also helps you a lot to communicate your design, your concept with this very different and very quickly done different views on your project, right? So it's very easy to create the sections, very easy to create 3D view, perspective view, render view. We have cloud rendering, which speeds up enormously the process of delivering photorealistic pictures. We also have this 3D which you see here on the left, 3D sections, orthogonal sections, which helps you a lot to create these very illustrative and informing views of the same model. Finally, what is also very important, and what I need to emphasize always when I speak about Revit, is that Revit exists. Actually, Revit is tailored, is designed for not only for the architects but also for structural engineers, right? So you can get the same basically you can also as architects, as structural engineers, as MEP engineers can again work in Revit from the conceptual to the very end executive phase on their models. So it is for architects, for structural engineers, and also for MEP engineers. We have so this Revit has been obviously developed for more than a decade already, and now we can say that it's very mature, and really all these professionals from different industries can work and create their models with Revit. Okay, but obviously this webinar is not not dedicated for Revit only, but for our super interesting Dynamo. So what is Dynamo? Dynamo is a tool, right? It's a embedded tool in Revit. So everyone who's using Revit has a free access to it. So you don't have to purchase anything additionally to Revit. It exists within the software. So it's an integral part of Revit. Okay. So it is. What is Dynamo? So it's a kind of a platform, or to be even better say, it's a language. Okay, and this language or platform is equipped with the interface based on something which is called visual programming. Visual programming. So don't be scared. Programming. I will explain that later. So obviously, when you start using Dynamo, you become a programmer, but it's a little bit different programmer than you think. So Dynamo is a language. It can be compared to a language because it has enormous flexibility. So that you can do a lot, like incredible amounts of things with this. Like compare it to with a foreign language, and it provides users ability to create. So you're able to create programs, you are becoming a programmer. So you create programs, but what is extremely important, so you don't need to have any deep programming knowledge or experience. So you don't have to be a C# or C++ or Visual Basic expert. It's nothing like that. So you can really, you as an architect, someone, or a structural engineer or MEP engineer, someone who has always, who graduated at technical university at his faculty, which has nothing to do with the computer science, can learn that. Okay, and really, you don't have to have any background knowledge in programming to be super fluent with Dynamo. What makes really, what's very beneficial here is that with Dynamo, with the super language, you have full access to Revit API. So basically, Dynamo gives you the ability to speak very precisely with Revit and with your model, with your documentation. Okay, and and why should you learn it? Why you should dedicate your time to learn this this language? First of all, because it allows you to very efficiently and very effectively manipulate and edit BIM data. So you can export, import data from Revit, but you can also somehow edit it within the model. You can create some very sophisticated processes within your model, which which will make best use of your BIM data. And I would say this is the main purpose of using Dynamo. The second purpose and the use of Dynamo, practical use, is obviously the geometry creation. And it's Dynamo, with its ability to create sometimes very, very complex expressions, allows you to create very, very complex geometry, which would be very, very difficult to create with the standard procedures, and would be very, very difficult and time consuming to be done by hand, even with Revit, with the standard functionalities in Revit. And finally, we have a lot of examples amongst our customers here in Poland or in Germany, across the Europe, which are using Revit. This is a little bit linked with the first example, with the first practical use. I mean, with data manipulation. But there's a lot of examples, very excellent examples about Revit task automatization. So you can automatize you can create very simple scripts with Dynamo, which allow you to automatize a lot of manual processes, and this will really will help you a lot to speed up your project delivery. Let's go further. So I mentioned scripting, okay, and it can be very, very scary for you. But what is really important to mention is that if you think about the conventional scripting, so what I just said. I mentioned some scripting languages before, like C#, Visual Basic, like Python, what you see here. So there was, you needed some university degree to be, in many cases to be fluent in these languages, right? So it used to be extremely demanding. Me personally, I was never able to learn scripting in this way, in this conventional, traditional way, where you have to place some text. It's super demanding. It's very, 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 very difficult. However, what Dynamo is, so what is this visual programming? So we are converting this way of communicating with the computer to this way. So basically, what you see here is, instead of placing a text, some very complex syntaxes and you so just forget about this experience that you need to have with the traditional scripting. So what Dynamo gives you are these little gray blocks here, they are called nodes. This is like professional name of these. They are not called icons, but or blocks. They are called nodes, and these nodes already contain some code in themselves, which you don't have to consult. It's there. So what's happening here? You just connect logically these nodes with these wires that you see here, and then you see immediately the result on the background of your screen, the graphical result. This is super important because you can kind of create these logical sequences of nodes, and you can without, again, I want to emphasize, without any programming experience. It's just like a Lego blocks. You just connect them logically with some sequences, and you can experiment a lot. Also, you can see a lot of other alternatives of your design in this way. It's an excellent. Also, it's a very good way to start, more advanced scripting. Maybe not visual, but the regular one. But nevertheless, this is very important. You get these blocks and you connect them logically with wires, and you see the result in the background very quickly. And again, visual programming is not something which Autodesk has invented. Sorry. Visual programming has been, in use for years, for decades. And as you see here on this, on this drawing, on this picture, these are some examples of visual programming. And the first on the top with the fish it's a game for kids, okay, and that basically allow these kids to somehow pre-program behavior of this fish. So visual programming is, as you can see here on the left, it's also kind of a visual. You don't see here any nodes with wires, but some little colored blocks which you put in some particular way. But at the end, it's what stands behind is the same. So how it works under the hood is very similar. So even a kid can learn it. So you really, what I really emphasize, it's like to learn Dynamo, you don't have to have any programming knowledge. It's just logics and your ability and your your will to basically your determination to learn it and to see the results. Okay, within Dynamo, you can, as I told you, it's a very good start to you don't have to become a professional programmer, but it's a very good method to start, even though you might never become a advanced worker. But you can be very, very, like, I would say, flexible, and you can be very you can do a lot of things even not becoming an expert, because the same expression in Dynamo can be scripted with nodes, like you see here on the left. If you're more advanced and your code might become a little bit more more complex, then Dynamo also allows you to create this kind of design script code, but you don't have to do that. And then the third, if you become really kind of a nerd expert, you can also, within Dynamo, you can use also Python language. But advanced and nerd are absolutely not necessary, and you can do super complex things, super complex procedures and automatizations just with nodes. Okay, this is just for your information that it is also possible, and it's actually not that far away. If you become a super fluent with nodes later on, you will see that this is also not that difficult to become a expert with advanced or even with nerd method. Okay, so let me show you in practice how it works. Okay, so I have some multiple examples for you in which videos in which I will show you how to I want to present the practical use of Dynamo in your daily work. What I want to say also is, like, remember that this is a webinar and we have 1 hour, so it's not a training. Okay, so like if you think that this software, this method will be super important for you, then please ask your local reseller for the training, because I cannot teach you right now this because we don't have enough time. So what I'm gonna do for the next remaining 40 minutes is I'm gonna present you some good examples how Dynamo can be used in your work. So have a look on this example. This is as you can see here in Revit, I have designed some some floors for auditorium, right? And this is an excellent way. Look how easy it is to communicate with some pre-existing elements in Revit. I'm just selecting. There is a special node which allows me to select edges of a floor, and then I'm not gonna obviously explain you everything, but by the on the right, this is how Dynamo looks. This is the interface. So basically, you can see that there's some work also happening, let's say, parallelly to Revit, right? So you have like Dynamo works as a separate platform, right? So as you can see here, I have selected these edges of this floor, and with some simple steps, I have placed some chairs on that point, which have been placed on the curve, and then with a very simple expression, I'm also placing, not place the floors. I have placed the chairs, but immediately I can also rotate them in a way that they, for example, look at some certain point on the platea, right? So it's so imagine that if you would put these chairs manually and try them rotate manually, it would take a lot of time because you would have to, calculate each angle manually. But here, Dynamo does it for you, right? So I have my BIM data, whatever. I have my chairs, which include the information about, the company that produced them and so on. So it is a very, very effective way of, designing a, as you can see here, I'm moving this point, which is in the middle of the platea, right? And my chairs are rotating, right? So this is a simple example because I have only 2 rows of chairs. But imagine if you are designing a, auditorium or a cinema, and then you have a lot of, chairs like that, and sometimes you have to, control basically their position or their rotation, right? This is just an example. Obviously, you can do this with the very different elements. And what is also important is that so Dynamo allows you to control the position of multiple, Revit elements like chairs, doors, whatever, structural beams, columns, and so on. And at the same moment, also allows you to stream and control multiple parameters of each element. So you can control many elements at once. Like here, I was rotating with one slider, with one kind of this node which allows you to put the input data, some number. I was able to control multiple elements at once. Okay, so let's go to another example. So the first example I showed, it was like kind of universal, versatile, but however very, very architectural centric, right? Very, very tailored for architects. Now I will show you something which is more for structural engineers, even though it's like between structural engineers and architects as well. So Dynamo is an excellent, tool for design of complex frame structures, complex steel structures. I will show you a video which basically demonstrates that. So I have, two walls designed with the traditional methods. I just draw them on the floor, and with them, with this, I basically have my my script. Again, I have my node which allows me to select some existing elements in the project, so I don't have to do everything with Dynamo. Obviously, I can work in a hybrid approach. So I have selected 2 edges of walls. These edges has been converted into curves, and again, I'm not gonna speak too much about that script because but anyways, the script allows me to create a steel structure based only on these curves, right? And this steel structure, this steel roof can be as parametric as you wish, right? So it can be fully parametric, and this, let's say, this connection with Revit is live, right? So I move once and everything is being updated. Now, this also super important is that with the same script where I'm using for creating that model in Revit, I can use the same script to make the same structure in a robot structural analysis, right? So for analytical purposes. And by the way, recently, the beginning of the year, not that many months ago, we also had implementation of Dynamo in Advanced Steel, which is for it's a software for steel detailing, right? So you can basically have you can use the same script which updates the model in Revit, in Robot, and with Advanced Steel at the same moment, So obviously you can, like it is right now, like it is even before Dynamo, to export a model from Revit to Advanced Steel and to Robot, but you have to always think that there is some file in between, some this workflow expects that you create some file in the middle. But here you have a script which basically creates parallelly the same shape, the same model in 3 softwares, right? Later on in Revit, obviously you can this example shows how flexible and how versatile the solution is, because you can really create, very, very precise information, and you can stream that information into your model. As you could see here a couple of seconds ago, I was even able to calculate each individual rotation angle for each individual steel beam in Revit in order to place this beam orthogonally to the surface of a roof, right? At the same moment, I have the same model in robot. And again, what is also super important, that if whatever I change, okay, I change the parameter, it is updated immediately in all the software. So in Revit, in robot, and here you don't see on this video, but it also works with advanced steel. Right, and obviously in Revit I can continue to to place some adaptive components on it, so put some panels and so on. So it's like very, very efficient in creating of these complex steel structures. And obviously once you in order to be more precise, in order to push that data from Dynamo to robot structural analysis, you need to so Dynamo works with some also additional let's say, so once you download Dynamo, you have some standard tools, but then obviously there is a lot of like extra tools which are also for free, which you can download and make use of them. So because there is Dynamo, it's an open source project, so therefore there's a very, very large community of other users working across the globe, which somehow also create some little enhancements of standard functionality of Revit. Is also possible, and they share it with the others. And this structural analysis package is one of them, and it's necessary to push your data from Revit to robot. Just a comment aside. So let me show you another example. So what another very, very useful functionality that gives you Dynamo is bidirectional link with Microsoft Excel. And this is something which in this example you will see example with with rooms in Revit. But what I want to emphasize is that it can be done with any element. So it can be rooms, I don't know, air diffusers. It can be whatever, doors, walls, whatever you think it's important to you to create that to make use with in Excel, because this allows you basically to immediately, very quickly, to push your schedules, your quantities from Revit to Excel without any text file or without any additional file. It just streams online, right? And what is also very important is that obviously it works. It's a live connection. So if I change that room called Office 4083, if I change a wall and I move this door up and down or left, right, so as you could see here, immediately this data is being updated. So it's like a dynamic connection, dynamic link with Excel. What is also super important is that I don't have only the possibility to export the data to Excel. I also have possibility to, and this is super important, because now I can start changing something in Excel. Okay, I can change, for example, the type of finishing material of of a floor, or I can even add some calculation, right? I can perform some calculations in the Excel, and now I can use that information which has been calculated in Excel, or for example some calculations made by someone else who has nothing to do with Revit, for example, And now I can use the same script, the same Excel file, the same Revit model to take that data which has been added in Excel and push it back to Revit model, which is really, so basically this is super important because I can, as you can see here, I made a kind of a loop. So I take the data from Excel, I put it into, I took the data from Revit, I put it into Excel, I made some modification in Excel, I added some additional data in Excel, I can make some calculation, and then this data calculated, this new data comes back to Revit in the same location, right? So as you can see here, I could change the finishing material in Excel and push it back to Revit. Another example, complex facades. This is a hot topic because this is something which Dynamo allows you to do very quickly. So basically, again, as you could see here, I have some predefined floors. Okay, I select, the edges. I basically create some order of panels on that facade. Okay, and then within really couple of seconds, I'm just checking, how this facade. So this example is relatively easy because it's just rectangular, panels on a curvy surface. But you can really, I can guarantee you, this is a simple example, but you can make these facades super complex, and you can control every individual panel. In this case, I'm just putting two types of panel like alternately. Windows A, Windows B. One is like a niche, and the second is like kind of extruded outside. But what is also important is that I have a full control over all the parameters of them. I can control the amount of vertical, horizontal amount, and so on. What I can also do is, for example, put a random color on them, or I could even change their their opening or this extrusion level, extrusion factor based on a sun rays and illumination of the facade. So it allows me to control complex geometries of a facade very quickly and very efficiently, and have a full control over multiple elements. A little bit like on the first example with the rotation of a chairs. Okay, so let's go further on the next another example. So this is something which, again, I do a step forward. I come out of the architectural world and I do step into some workflow which needs to be done between MEP engineers and structural engineers. So I have here, as you could see, I have this MEP model, Revit MEP model, and I have this, concrete walls. And what Dynamo allows you to do is, basically, I can so I have my linked model, and what Dynamo allows you to do is to analyze the intersections or the overlapping between ducts and my walls, and automatically place openings in for these openings for the ducts in the concrete. Obviously, it works also for both for walls and for floors, so you can basically create these openings for walls, for floors as well. But obviously, sometimes such automatization isn't that needed, I would say, and therefore, what you can also do is forget about automatically placing the openings, but you can also, instead of placing the opening, you can place some markers, which then allows you to. So basically, I can automatically, it finds me the clashes. Dynamo finds me the clashes. So there is some functionality of, I don't know, Navis works, or we can compare that functionality to some Navis works, or even this functionality in Revit exists, but Dynamo also does it, and it additionally places you this colored red marker, right? So which allows you later on to consult that opening with maybe with the structural engineer. So maybe you as a project coordinator or as a BIM manager, you need to consult these openings with the structural engineers. For example, so many openings in a concrete wall very close to each other is allowed or not allowed. Okay, so Okay, let's go further. Okay, another really nice functionality of Dynamo in a very like everyday work on Revit is ability to renumber or rename, or renumber is the best example. So basically it allows you to renumber anything. Okay, so here, as you can see here, I have some rooms which have some random numbers, and now I want to basically renumber them into basically in amongst, let's say, along some sense, some order. Okay, in order to do that, what I do is just, so this is my room number 3. I want this number 3 to become 2. Okay, and obviously I also need to change the parameter from mark to number, so I need to change some particular parameter. But what I have to do, I have to give some criteria along which he will basically, Dynamo will renumber these elements. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw just a line. Okay, this line is nothing to do with, like, just regular, curve drawn, which is drawn manually, and I want these rooms to be renumbered along that curve. And I'm just selecting that curve manually with select model elements. And please note that I don't, like, it does that's automatically renumbering. Okay, and which sometimes can be really like very frustrating and very time consuming. Here is just one click. Okay, I have a script which does it for me. I don't know, 800 elements can be renumbered in this way, right? I can also renumber doors, for example. I'm just, have to specify what type of a door I need to renumber. Okay, what parameter, because sometimes, we have different parameters which are describing this renumeration. In case of rooms, it was number. In case of a door, it's a mark parameter, just a detail. But anyways, it's just up and renumbers me these elements along that curve, right? And by the way, this curve doesn't even have to intersect with these elements. Or this example, right? I have some diffusers, air diffusers, some MEP mechanical elements, okay? And they also are completely, their enumeration is kind of random. It can be, air diffuser, it can be some fire sprinkler, it can be anything, any element. What I need to do is just provide some criteria to Dynamo. In this case, I just need to draw that curve in a way that satisfies me in terms of, renumerating order. So in this case of these, as you can see here, the renumeration isn't that good. So probably I have to modify that curve a little bit in order to make that, especially number 3 is in the wrong position, right? So for example, I'm gonna draw it like from here to here, so from here to here. So I want my 4 to become 3 and 3 to become 4, right? Just draw it in this kind of very schematic way, but I decide how these elements will be renumbered. Okay, so very time consuming and very frustrating work can be automatized in a very efficient way, and can be really, it can speed up your can be, for example, I think about, parking lots, right? In a parking, you have, 500 parking places, and you want to renumerate them. You can use that also as well, right? Okay, renumber anything. Let's go another example. So another example, automatic dimensioning and annotations. So what Dynamo allows you, again, and this is with Dynamo, especially with release which has been published half year ago, it allows you to put the, so I'm selecting basically a walls, and with a relatively simple script, I'm able to place dimensions on every wall. I'm able to place some, annotations in some special location. I'm able to rotate that annotation. So again, I am able to even put some filling regions, right? This kind of, wavy lines, wavy area inside that walls. So I'm able to automatize even dimensioning placement. Okay, and it can be really when you have some projects which are kind of similar to each other, you can really create a script which will help you to place these dimensions automatically on your model and speed up even the delivery of 2D documents. And just I'm selecting these walls, run. Okay, this is the old part. I'm just updating, run, bam. It's so fast, right? Dimensions. Okay, let's go further. So sorry, I run it again. Okay, another example which I have to do a lot of recently is bridge. So we are going abroad from architecture, from structural engineer, from, let's say, we're going beyond the building, and what Dynamo can make out of Revit is a very, very good tool for bridge or tunnel design even. So if you are a multidisciplinary company, I think you should consult this as well. There is for those of you that maybe already know Dynamo a little bit, I will show something. Wait me, I want to show the beginning of this movie because it's important. So there is a this again, as I told you at the beginning, Dynamo is made of, so if you go to Dynamo, you have all of these, this tab called packages, and then you can download some external packages. Packages are these tools which allow you, basically, which extend the standard functionality of Dynamo. And amongst them, there is also a package which I have published recently. It's called DynaBridge, which is just made of these custom nodes, made of standard nodes, which allow you very efficiently and very quickly to build up a model of a tunnel, of a bridge, or even of a road, based on, and what is also important here is that I'm creating these infrastructure objects like, oh, what's happening here? I can play that movie. Okay. Here, okay. So basically what is also important is that I am gonna build that along a alignment. So basically I'm using some geospatial data. In Excel sheet, I have some coordinates, okay, exported from the software like Civil 3D or anything, which collects the geospatial data. And based on that, please look what's happening on the right. With this, I'm able to build up an alignment. So translate the Excel sheet and its coordinates into 3D points. Okay, this is what Dynamo can do. And based on that, I'm using adaptive components made in Revit to build up, and so basically Dynamo is placing automatically these elements along the alignment. And later on you can dimension it, you can reinforce that. So basically this is also an excellent tool for a for some such complex geometries, like, because at the end a bridge, especially such a bridge or a tunnel, they have very complex geometry, and Revit can become an excellent platform for that, and to create a complex geometry with the standard Revit elements without exporting some SAT files or DWG files, some external complex and not Revit friendly geometries, native geometries, right? Okay, so another example I want to show is, like, a part of what you have seen till now. Dynamo can go very, very, very far away in terms of complex geometry creation. We have there is another tool amongst these standard tools in Dynamo, which allow you to create in Revit geometries which derive from T-splines. We have this T-splines tools which allow you to create geometries which would not be possible even to create with any manual software. Like manual, I mean when you have to with the mouse, with the cursor, to create, you know, such especially these you know, nodes where you are where these beams are melting down and becoming solid, right? So this kind of geometries, and these are really only, you know, with T-splines you can do that. It's like really hard to make such geometry with other software, or, you know, geometries like these, right? Okay, so that's, we have still 10 minutes. I'm very happy that we still have a lot of time for questions. So if you have any question, I'm very happy to answer, and we still have some time. So I see that there is already some question. I'm going to obviously rephrase these questions so everyone can, I'm not going to say who asked them, but I'm going to. Okay, so the first question is, so we need to know the program commands and how to link them. Well, obviously you need to at least, you know, first of all, you need to know what to do. Okay, so what is your task? Then if you run Dynamo, you can see that basically there is searching for, if you, for example, want to create a point, okay, if you type in a point on the search area, then you get these nodes which are responsible. We have a lot of nodes, but you get only these nodes which are responsible for creation of a point. If you want to export a Excel data to the Excel sheet, you just type in Excel, and there are only these nodes which are responsible for the Excel. Okay, so this means that obviously you need to have some let's say some, first of all, you need to know what you want to do, and then obviously you need to have some you need to revise what are there in the nodes, and obviously this is a language, so you need in order to be productive with Dynamo, you need to dedicate some time for learning, right? It is very easy to learn, but nevertheless you need to start somehow. Another question, can I import different file type in Revit with Dynamo, FBX and other? So basically with Dynamo you can import DWG. So basically there are some packages. So there are some extra tools done by community of users which allow you to do that. However, amongst the standard and let's say stable and supported methods, we can import CSV files, we can import TXT, so text files, CSV, Excel, then we can import Excel, CSV, and text, and then obviously also the DWG. FBX is not supported so far, but again, we would have to check what is available amongst the packages, amongst these extra tools made available by the others. So depending on, again, what do you want to do, maybe there's some workaround, whatever. Is there a way of Dynamo to communicate with dialogues? Good question. We don't, as far as I know, there is no any so Dynamo out of the box does not support such communication. As far as I know, I'm not sure 100% right now if there is some package which covers this communication, but even though I would try to make some, you know, some maybe not perfect but quite okay communication with using Excel, because I'm pretty sure that with dialogues you can export that data to Excel, and then maybe you can communicate the results that dialogues calculates, and you can use Excel to push that data into Revit, calculated data. This Excel communication is really has a very big potential. Another okay, so Viorel is saying that, so if you have any additional question, I'm not finishing it, but just answering someone's question. So if you have any question which you want to ask in Romanian, please type write an email to fiorelkun@autodesk.com. I'm gonna type his address on the here on the chat area. fiorel.kun@autodesk.com. Okay, so if you have sent to all, so if you have any question in Romanian, we still have a time, but yeah, if you have some additional questions which you want, maybe some in Romanian, then please send it to him. Okay, so there's a lot of more questions. So I see that is Dynamo working in Revit linked files? The answer is yes, you can do that. However, again, you need to find, there is a package which allows you to do that, very, very popular package. So, but it is, yes, it is possible. The question is, the link with Excel remains valid through each session if I open it the next day? So it works in a way that if you basically, so Dynamo, within Dynamo file, it saves the Dynamo file, remembers the last run of a script, remembers what has been done in the last moment, okay, on the last procedure, on the last execution of the script. So whatever you do, either you place adaptive components, or you place, you push some data to Excel, or you read some data from Excel, it always will remember what has been done last time. So for example, I place some adaptive components in Revit, or I push some data from Excel to Revit. I save Dynamo file, close Dynamo, close Revit, save the Revit, close Revit, reopen Revit, reopen Dynamo, and Dynamo remembers what has been done on the last execution, on the last execute. So for example, it will not overlap, it will not recreate elements second time, okay? It used to, the latest releases of Dynamo 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, they remember what has been done before. Another question. Are all the nodes used in this presentation from the standard library? Can we get some sample files on what we have seen today? Yes, I will post them, and you'll be able to get this. This is something which I have all of them have been done by me. So yes, you can. I will create some shared folder on A360 on Autodesk Cloud, and if anyone interested can have access to these examples, to the samples. Some of these examples has not been done with standard nodes. Some of these videos which you seen today have been done with these packages, additional packages which extend the standard functionality of Dynamo, which you need to download. But you're downloading them for free. You don't have to pay anything. So anything that you have seen today on this video, the only, let's say, what you need to do, what you need to have, the only thing that you need to have is to have commercial version of Revit. Okay? Everything related to Dynamo was for free. It does not require any additional fees. The other question, is it possible to manage sheets in Revit with Dynamo? The answer is yes, it is possible. You can renumber multiple sheets. You can rename multiple sheets. The best method is to first export that data, export numbers of sheets, export names of sheets into Excel, rename them in Excel, and then push them back into Revit. So exactly the same way like I did it with the Excel sheet. Sorry, with the rooms on my example, when I was showing when I was updating the names of room finishes. Another question: do I need to download a package dedicated for Dynamo for each software? Yes, you have to. So when it comes to linked Revit, Dynamo Revit and Dynamo Robot, you don't have to. When it comes to linked with Actually, no, this is right now. It's sorry, my answer is you don't have to. You download it only once, because even the Dynamo that is right now working on the top of advanced still also sees the same packages. The answer is you don't have to download them for each single software. Then the answer was also how you start with Dynamo installation comes separately as a software or as an add-in. So basically, the answer is that if you download now, today, if you go to Autodesk page and you download Revit 2018, you will get the latest Dynamo with that software. If you're running, for example, I don't know, Revit 2016, you are running, probably you get Dynamo 0.9. Okay, what you need to do, you need to go to Windows uninstall 0.9, and then you go to if you go to the page called, I'm gonna type it on the chat area, dynamo bim.org. This is the page. Okay, I'm sent all where you can download all the latest release of Dynamo, and then you can download the version 1.3. Okay, because Dynamo is being updated more frequently than, or Dynamo is being enhanced and updated more frequently than Revit. Okay, so and you get the latest release of Dynamo on that page. There was a question when we'll have a complete workflow for bridge design, civil, Dynamo, Revit. It's difficult to answer, but I can just tell you that have a look on this package which I have published. It's called DynaWorks. Probably next week, or maybe in 2 weeks, or even probably next week, I'm gonna publish a new set of nodes which allow you to read land XML file. So you'll be able to export not Excel file, but land XML from Civil, which gives you much more, let's say, information in that. However, if you're answering if there will be some like official supported Civil 3D Dynamo Revit workflow, published by some, by officially by Autodesk, the answer is I don't have any information on that. We have these custom nodes. We have these, kind of customized Dynamo tools for made by community of users that allow you this exchange. Okay, there is another question. Any chance we could get this presentation for later review? The answer is yes. Viorel will. You need to contact Viorel and Viorel Kun. So again, I'm gonna type in his email. You can ask these questions in Romanian. You can ask some additional questions as well in Romanian, and then we will provide you the information. Another question. Can I use Dynamo to make workflow between different software? The answer is kind of yes, because again, if you export anything from Excel, or if you export anything from from Revit to Excel, or from Revit to CSV file, right? Comma delimited text file, then yes, you can. I can see that, like I can imagine many different scenarios in which we make Revit communicating with the other softwares, not through some, for example, let's say files like FBX or files like, let's say IFC, right? We can provide parallel information through CSV file, text file, Excel file, and so on. It depends on what the other software is able to understand, what the other software is able to digest, what kind of information, which format, right? the answer, the question, a package developed in 2017 will work with older version. We have Dynamo 09 for Revit 2015. The answer is some will not work, some will work. The answer now is very difficult to answer, depends on what, but in generally we would recommend to upgrade, because there has been many changes, and something will definitely not work in 2015 Revit 2015. I would say most of it will not work with Revit 2015, but depending on the complexity, maybe simple things will work. Answer the question: can we generate sheets from views in the project? You mean, can we generate the sheet? I don't understand this question. Do you mean you want to place views on the sheets? Yes, there is a possibility to automatically place views on a sheet. It is possible. There is a node, standard node, by the way, which allows you to place views on the sheets in Revit. But I'm not sure if this is the question you asked. The question: would it be possible to print all sheets to multiple printers depending on different sheet size with one click? Something similar to AutoCAD batch plot. Revit has a batch plot, but for that all sheets have to be same size. I'm not aware of such functionality, unfortunately. So the answer is probably not right now. Okay. Another question: is it possible to create 4D simulations inside Revit based on a time schedule? So, inside Revit, I would not recommend to do these simulations, 4D simulations in Revit. We can do it much more efficiently with Navisworks, either simulate or manage, right? And you can use Dynamo very efficiently to speed up the process of, let's say, connecting your tasks in your time schedule with the elements in Revit. Okay, so there is a very efficient and very quick workflow which allows you to do it in, in Navisworks with automatic attachment of tasks with elements. So I would recommend you to explore that. Not, Revit Navisworks, not everything in Revit. Question: you can plot batch from Revit by exporting to DWF and opening it with Autodesk Design Review. It doesn't always work for all sheets. Yeah. I don't think that Dynamo will not work in this area that much when it comes to software like design review. It's Dynamo will be extremely efficient in the areas when you want to renumerate your sheets, when you want to rename your sheets, when you want to you can place some automatically views on sheets. But when it comes to PDF creation, for example, or sending to printer, then standard Dynamo would require some some Python script coding, so it is kind of advanced stuff already and requires some expertise and some experience with creating a code which communicates with some external hardware like printer. So it's pretty advanced stuff. Okay. I don't see any more question. It's already 10 past 10 here in Warsaw. I believe it's even 1 hour later in Romania. So we can finish this webinar now. Please contact Violercun. You can ask him in Romanian and yeah, and ask for. I will yeah, somehow we'll find a method to share with you these presentation with you, and this let's say this yeah, some of most of the scripts that you have seen will be shared with you, and I hope that you have enjoyed this webinar. I hope that you find it you know, useful that you have seen today, and I hope that you will start using this, and I think that it will be very, very beneficial for you. Okay, so thank you very much. Please contact Viorel for the further information, and see you in the next webinar. Bye bye.